Good morning to you. I want to send out my thanks to the Portsmouth Chamber of Commerce and Lisa Carver over there, the Ashland Alliance, Ohio University Southern, and the Maysville Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this. What they do as a sponsor is they just notify their community of people that this is coming up, and Lisa offers a little extra help. She co-hosts this and kind of oversees the waiting room and lets people come in. So we are thrilled to have you here today for this, what we used to call an hour of power. We're calling it a power session now. My thought on that is I want you to transform in this hour or so together. I'm not just interested in downloading information, even though it's important to get good information, but it's what you do with that information that makes the difference. And so I want you to really, I call it marinate. I want you just to kind of take some deep breaths this morning and just enjoy the content and just kind of let it affect you. In other words, have an experience this morning, not just trying to pay attention to some thoughts or some speech, but really just try to experience the feelings that go with it, especially in the area of core values. So let's get started. I am Dave Beam. I'm your trainer. I've been married for 35 years to Connie. Happily married, wonderful marriage. I am the granddaddy of all granddaddies. I strive to live up to that title and love doing that. I love music. I play a Tyrus 5 keyboard. That's my escape in the basement where I enjoy music. I am the owner of my own business, Beam Business Services. I've been doing this kind of work for the last 18 years. I'm a mentor, a trainer, a speaker. I'm also a coach. I am also a biblical counselor. I've actually been doing that work for 20 years. And I'll just mention to you all, if you know anybody with some personal challenges or marriage challenges that would like some help from a biblical perspective, I would love to work with them. That is at no cost. That is free of charge. I have a passion to help people, and that's what brings all those together. And this issue of core values is a core issue. I want us to get into the Beam Business Service mindset, these rules of the game that I always present, have presented for years. If you're thinking right and your head is in the right space, you'll get the most out of our time together. And the first thing you need to do is embrace an ownership mindset. What does that mean? Well, that means you're going to take responsibility, accountability, and ownership of the situation you are in. We're talking specifically today about organizational core values. All of these principles can be applied to you personally, your own values. But, you know, it's easy, and I do it because I'm human. It's easy to point the finger. It's easy to blame the other person. It's easy to make excuses. It's hard to get good people. It's hard to have a strong team. It's hard to spend time on the people side of the business, whatever. There's the denial aspect of the opposite of ownership, where you become a victim by just not dealing with situations. I want to tell you that you can have an amazing team. You can have a magnificent team. You can have a happy place to work. You can have a productive place to work. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. We live in this world. It's not a perfect world, and people are not perfect people. And I'm not a perfect person, but it's not about perfection. It's about direction. You can have a growing organization that's moving in the right direction that you feel good about. How do we do this morning? We own it. We own the situation. As you start to see things you need to change, you own it. You participate 100%. That means as you hear things that you feel need to change in your business, in your life, in yourself, that you're willing to participate and give it the good old try. Doesn't mean that we do everything perfectly all the time. We learn even from our mistakes. The only failure is the failure to give it a shot. Dropping the I know is probably a huge one here. When people hear core values, I don't know what goes through their head, but one of the I knows I have is I know that doesn't make much difference. I know that's something people hang on the wall and they never look at it again. I would encourage you to get rid of that and just get really curious this morning. Think about it in these terms. What if what I heard this morning, what I experienced this morning could change my whole life and my business? What if that could happen? Is that possible? It might not happen, but could it happen? Be curious this morning and drop your I know, and let's just have some fun. When you're having fun and you're enjoying yourself, you'll learn a whole lot more. That's just a proven scientific fact. And I think it's a common sense thing that when I'm feeling good and having fun, I learn a whole lot more. I'm a lot more open to new ideas. I don't feel as tense and as closed and constricted. I'm open. So I'm going to start with this story. If you've hung out with me for a few years, you've heard this story, but a good story is worth repeating. And here goes. It was a Monday morning. It was foggy outside, and I had been referred to an oral surgeon to look at a condition that I had. I don't know how you feel about going to medical appointments and dentists and oral surgeons, but it's not my top 10 fun thing to do. However, I was off to the dentist, a new dental office. I walked in early in the morning, 7:30. I got that early appointment because I wanted to get in and out. And this pleasant lady walked from behind the counter, and she walked around and she said, "You must be Mr. Beam. I've been expecting you this morning." That was a little odd. I said, "Yes, thank you very much." She said, gave me a clipboard. Here's some paperwork to fill out. If you need any help with that, I'm going to be sitting right here. You don't feel free to interrupt me. Would you like me to get you some coffee? I said, "No, I've had my cup for the morning. You don't want me on 2 cups of coffee?" She said, "Well, that's fine. I'll just sit here." So I filled my paperwork out, turned it into her. She came back around her desk and then a little reception area, and she took it from me and she said, "I want to go introduce you to your chairside assistant, Kathy." So she takes me back to this room where I'm going to have my examination, and Kathy is standing there. She said, "Oh, you must be Mr. Beam. We've been expecting you this morning." Big smile on Kathy's face. I said, "Wow, these people must be into the gas. They must be back there at the nitrous oxide or something. This is the happiest place I've ever been." I was starting to get a little curious and a little nervous. But Kathy opens up her phone, starts to show me some of her grandkids. Being the granddaddy of all granddaddies, we had to share some pictures, and we were off to a good start. And she said, "Well, I'll go get the dentist. He should be ready." And Dr. Blank actually was his name. I'm going to go get him. He comes in. He shakes my hand. He has me stand up out of the chair, shakes my hand, welcomes me to the business, to the practice, and says, "You must be Mr. Beam. We've been expecting you. So glad that you're here. And I really want you to have a great experience. Have you met the receptionist and Kathy?" And I said, "Yeah, they've just been great." He said, "Excellent. I'll be back in a moment." So Kathy's in here working on some equipment. And I said, "Kathy, what is it about this place? You guys seem to have it very together. You're very happy." She said, "Oh, that's easy. We've got a rule." And I said, "A rule?" She said, "Yeah, a happy rule." And I said, "A happy rule?" I said, "Do you have people that actually work here and put up a happy rule?" And she said, "Oh yeah, we've been here 14 years, 16 years. We love working here because it's a happy place to work." I said, "What is this happy rule, Kathy?" She said, "It's a very simple rule. You're happy or you go home." I said, "Fired?" She said, "Oh, no, we don't fire people. We just say you just can't work here and get paid while you're unhappy. It's a rule that you have to be happy when you're here. So leave, and then you come back when you're happy." I said, "Well, how do you get work done?" She said, "Oh, we just walk out of the office and take a breath of air and get it back together and come back smiling." I said, "How about the dentist? Does he have to follow the happy rule?" She said, "We sent him home last week." I laughed. I said, "Seriously?" She says, "Yeah, he came in a little grumpy, and he kind of groaned instead of saying good morning, and we just pointed to the door and said, 'You're not happy.'" And he said, Yeah. And he walked out, and in about 10 minutes, he was back with a smile on his face, and he was happy. And I just tell you, I was just totally overwhelmed and overtaken with this interesting place, that happiness and being happy was a core value of theirs. So my last question for them was this: do the patients have to be happy? And they didn't even hesitate. They said, absolutely. We will ask you at the end of every appointment whether you are happy. And if you were not happy 3 times in a row, we ask you to find another dentist. Our books are full. We have plenty of patients. And if you can't be happy here, your happiness is our goal, and you need to go somewhere else because we can't make you happy. You don't belong here. And I tell you what, folks, that got my attention. That story right there will tell you how core values work and what they're all about. So I'm going to bring it to a concept now. I've given you a story, and it's a familiar concept if you've worked with Dave Beam and Coach Dave Beam, but be, do, have. We all want to have things in life. We all want to have a certain kind of business. We all want to have certain kind of employees and team members. We want those team members to have certain things. Well, to have things, you have to do things. And you have to be the person that can do the things you need to do to have what you want. It's just a very simple little rule, but core values is all about the be. It's all about the be. It's like a little tree there. The root produces the fruit. If you noticed up in the colors, the be is brown and the have is red and the tree is green. So the root is what drives the fruit. The be and the do drive the have. So here's a question I want to start off with on this core value thing today. And I want you to think of this. And if you're taking notes, if you're a note taker, you might even jot down an answer to this question. What results do you want your organization to have? If I was working with you in a one-to-one situation or group situation, we would actually give you 2 minutes to write down a list of things that you would like to have as an organization. Seems that my dentist friend wanted to have happiness in their organization. That's one of the things they wanted to have. But I don't know what your list would be. Maybe it's a certain income. Maybe it's a certain attitude. Maybe it's a certain work ethic, a certain quality of work. But what results, keyword, do you want to have? And then the second question is, what do you and your team need to do to produce those results? Results just don't fall out of the sky. They come from work. They come from action, from activity. And the third question, which you can almost guess now, is who does your team need to be to produce those results? Core values are the answer to that question. If you really have discovered and developed your core values, this is who you all need to be as a team to do the things you need to do to have what you want. So mission and goals drive activity and schedule, and activity and schedule and strategy is driven by core values, which is the B. The law of sowing and reaping teaches us something here. It teaches us if you want to have apples, you need to grow an apple tree. Really, Dave? Yeah, follow me here. If you want to grow an apple tree, you need to plant an apple seed. Because an apple seed contains the blueprint and the operating DNA for an apple tree. The law of sowing and reaping says, I reap what I sow. What I plant, I get back. Just let that sink in. It's very simple, very common sense, maybe very apparent to you, like duh, but this duh can change your life and your business. What you plant is what you reap. The right seed produces the right root, which bears the right fruit. If I want apples, I need an apple root and an apple tree that comes from an apple seed. Hope you see that. That's really key this morning. And here we go. And again, I just want you to kind of marinate in this. I just want you to kind of bask in this, because it's in the really absorbing of this in your heart and your mind and your spirit and your soul that you'll start to understand what's missing in your team and what needs to occur there. Core values are the seeds that germinate into a root, which is the foundation and structure of your organization. That foundation and structure becomes the tree that yields the fruit, the product and services. So core values, what are they? I'm at the point of definition here in our presentation this morning. Core values are the non-negotiable standards, the seeds, that when they're planted deep within the soil of an organization, they define, transmit, and dictate that organization's identity, foundation, culture, and priorities. There's just a wealth of information in that statement. How do we set priorities? How do we know what's most important? How do we know who we need to be and who we want to be and who we choose to be? What is our identity? What is the foundation to our building, to our organization? Core values answer that question. They are the seeds that are planted deeply within the soil that dictate what the organism is going to be. They have that DNA. This is why core values are essential. Now you're saying, gosh, I never thought of that. We don't have anything like that. Oh, you have core values. You have some kind of values that drive your organization, that create the organization you have. You maybe just haven't defined them or identified them. And what's really neat, when everybody gets clear in your organization on what those values are, they become the standards. They become the thing that dictate the direction and everything else about the organization. Let's look at how that works. How would you do this? How would you work on this? Well, I want to go to Gino Wickman and his book Traction, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And here's how he would suggest or recommend a methodology for determining your core values. I'm going to give you the how it's done, and then I'm going to give you some examples. Here it is. Have each member on your leadership team or key people sit down in a room, list 3 people, if you could clone them, who would lead you to an ideal organization. These are 3 names, should preferably come from within the organization. Once each person has his 2 or 3, post all of them on the whiteboard flip chart for everyone to see. So what are we saying? Everybody on that team that's sitting there together is going to identify somebody in the past of the organization or somebody present in the organization that really define the best of who you are. Second, go through each name and list the characteristics that that person embodies. So we chose Ralph. Ralph is a servant. Ralph is a happy person. Ralph is a giving person. Ralph is a kind person. Those kinds of characteristics, the qualities that they exemplify, the reason you picked them out and chose their name. Well, how did they make it onto that list? Give the specifics, the specific characteristics and values that that person holds. And what you want to do is you want to, on that whiteboard, start to list all these values about why we chose that person to be the most representative of who we really are. Third, realize that your organization's core values are on that long list. You might have 38 different characteristics up there from several people that you chose. And now you need to narrow it down. In your first edit, you need to circle the ones that are really important and draw a line through those that you don't think are so important, might be a little fluffy, and the ones that are similar you need to combine. And we want to reduce the list down to 15. So if we've got a larger list, we want to get down to only about 15 values. Now we're looking at a list of 15 characteristics that really define our organization. Finally, we've got to make the tough decision. This is always the one where you have to eliminate. Through a group discussion and debate, we have to decide which values are truly core and that really define us. And the goal is to get down to 3 or 7. I just wanted to give you a practical methodology that I've used with many organizations to identify and clarify their core values. And you're going to say, wow, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of effort. That's several hours in a room. It is, but I want you to hear what the return on investment is. You don't want to make this decision in one day. You want to go through that process in 30 days and get it down to that list between 3 and 7 and let everybody on the team think about those and then get together one last time and say, we've got the list or we don't have the list. Are you going to hire based on this? More importantly, are you going to fire based on this list? Are you going to recruit? Are these non-negotiable standards that are absolutes that define us? If our people are not these things, they don't belong here. That's a true core value. So I want to give you an example of a few people that I've worked with through the years that have done this process and maybe a little bit of their story to give you a motivation to go through this challenge. Infusion Solutions, they're in Ashland, Kentucky. I met with Blake, the general manager there, and he is, I believe, a part owner. And he said, Dave, we have great people and they work well together, but sometimes we have trouble making some decisions and people do stray away and they get off track. How can we stay more cohesive and together? And we talked about a lot of different things that needed to be done. And they really bought into the Traction book and the tools that are in that book by Gino Wickman. And so we started to use that together to work on their organization. And he got very excited about doing core values. So they actually did this on their own. I was not present for the meeting, and sometimes people have me facilitate and coordinate that. Sometimes they do it on their own. Either way works great. And here's what they came up with for their core values. Patient first. And the reason that one's first on the line, because they said that is their absolute most important value, that we put our patients first. Then they had excellence, positivity, solidarity. That was an interesting one. We stay together. We have each other's back. Loyalty, integrity, and respect. And I really hammered them hard to try to reduce that list. And they said, nope, we've got people defending every one of those, saying they have to be on the list. Now, here's what's interesting, what this organization did with their core values. They went around, they have a 3-floor building. They went around and painted these on the wall. That's why I put this picture up here, where they are visible on every floor. When you walk around, there's no place you can stand in that building and not see this list of core values. And they gather one time a week on Fridays in the morning, about 9 o'clock, for 20 minutes. And here's what they do. They say, who has a story this week of somebody that demonstrated one of those values? And someone will step forward, sometimes with tears, I've heard, sometimes with applause. And with their heart and their passion, they'll tell a story about how they put the patient first this week, or about how they demonstrated solidarity or positivity or excellence. And they just listen to that story and they all appreciate it, and then they go back to work. But they do that every week. Blake said, Dave, you would be amazed that that is the highlight of the week. We can't wait to gather for that Friday huddle. We all stand up. We don't even sit down. And in their situation, they're able to stop business, and everybody in the building, about 60, 70 people, come together and they stand around and they have 1 or 2 people share what's gone on that week that reflect those values. He said it's transformational. The attitude and the morale around here is turned around. He said we had a pretty good morale, but he said now people are in tears. They feel like they're a member and a part of something that they believe in. Let me go to another story. Apogee Environmental. This is a company down that was founded in Appalachia, down in eastern Kentucky. And they decided that they were an Appalachian firm at heart, and they wanted to really talk about the Appalachian values that really define them and make them distinct from other environmental companies, the very best values of this region. And they came up with these four: urgency. We continually drive toward results. In other words, they said, as Appalachians, good Appalachians, they're not going to rest until they get the job, get her done. They're going to be get her done people, and they're going to continually drive until they get the result they need to get. Hospitality, and I tell you, they embody this core value like no company I've ever worked with. They treat others with genuine warmth of community. When you come in there, you feel like you're part of the family. It's almost a hot tub experience, if you know what I mean. I mean, they love on you. They make you feel like you're a part of them. I used to go down for coaching sessions, and I couldn't wait. Drove all the way to Whitesburg, Kentucky. Couldn't wait to get there and meet with them because it was just like going home. They have that Appalachian hospitality. Perseverance. They like the edge on this one. They said, we are hell-bent on success when others falter. Again, it's that good old Appalachian twang. We're hell-bent on success. In other words, we don't do it. Not only do we get it done, we get it done right, and we stay with it. And finally, curiosity. They're environmental people. They're outdoor people. They're curious about learning about the world around them. An amazing company. And when they bring people in for the hiring process, and when they're looking to add to their team, they talk about these values. They have different people on their staff talk about each value. And then they have the applicant talk about those values and what they heard in that and how they resonate with that. And they're looking for the same heart and spirit to hire people and recruit people. Now I'm going to talk to a company or an organization that I'm currently working with right now, the Scioto County Job and Family Services. Scioto County is where I was reared. These are the folks that take care of welfare. They take care of benefits. They take care of all those things, disability. When people are struggling in the community and they need help, this is where they go. And we went through this core value process with them, and we went through with tedium with their leadership team. And then Tammy, the director down there, put this email together, and it said this: when we look out in the agency, this is what we see. These characteristics define the best of you and me. Do you agree? Almost sound like a Dr. Seuss book. But she sent that out to everybody. By the way, I'm just going to say something about Tammy. She is one of the most upbeat, effervescent, energetic, kind people I've ever met. And as a leader, she took an agency that had some challenges morale-wise, and they even have a union there because that's the nature of the organization. And she has literally turned that around just by being that kind of person. But she wanted everybody on the leadership team to share that. And so they sat in a room, they went through the Gino Wickman process, and they came up with these three values. We are kind, we are professional, and we are hardworking. I want you to sense and feel how those three values work together. Being kind to people who are calling, being kind to one another, being professional in the way that we do our work. That's having some honor and some restriction and some rules, and we work hard. We're not lazy government employees. We come in here and we put our nose down. And I'll tell you, Scioto County Job and Family Services, of the Job and Family Services in Ohio, they are a leader. They are a leader in their production and their hard work. They are known for that. And I tell you, Tammy said it's been amazing as they have promoted people and hired people from the outside using these values. Even in the instruction of people and the development of people and the coaching of people, having these values as a center point has changed and enhanced the morale in the organization. And then I want to talk about one more organization, the Commercial Bank of Grayson. What's amazing about this is it's a fourth generation bank. This is a fourth generation community bank. You know, banks used to be small. A lot of them were small and family owned. To find a family-owned small community bank still in existence today is a difficult thing to do. You know why? Because regulations have become so extensive, and the burden to carry all the requirements to be in business as a bank is just rocketed like many other things. So most commercial small community banks are being bought out, they're being snarfed up, they're being absorbed. And I talked to Mark Strother there, fourth generation banker. His father's father was the head of this and the beginner of this, starter of this bank. And he said, Dave, I talked to my key people and we've decided we want to stay independent. We want to continue to put our community first. I tear up. He said, we love Grayson. And we know that Grayson needs a bank here that's not connected, that really understands the people in the community. So we truly, now we know we have to be efficient, and we know we still have to keep all the regulations, and we have to work hard. So we need something to inspire our people and motivate our people to work hard and stay together, because it's going to be hard to stay independent and small and meet all these regulations. So they came up with these core values. And I tell you, my friends, it was a privilege and an honor to be in the room as this leadership team came up with these core values. And their main one was all in. This idea of being a community-driven bank that's going to survive all these changes and maintain their independence and serve their community that way, they understood that our people are going to have to be all in. There's going to be some downsizing of some departments. There's going to be some increased work and efficiencies. We have to be all in. We're going to do extra things for the community. We're going to do extra projects for the community. We have to be all in. And our focus is not ourselves. Our focus isn't even our bottom line necessarily. We feel like that'll take care of itself. Our focus is this community. And we're going to have integrity in that. We're going to show compassion in that. And we're going to respect people. I don't know if you've been to Grayson, Kentucky. It's an interesting culture and community. And these folks get their community and they love their community. And their bank is all about serving that community. Now, are they a perfect organization? Are any of these organizations perfect? Of course not. They have people. Do they have people that get off track with this? Of course they do. But I'm telling you, their leadership and their owners, they have a center point. They have a flag in the ground. They have something they can go back to pull their people back together and get them refocused. They're called core values. This is the power of core values. I hope you felt it. So I want to go here now. I want to talk about this 16-cylinder concept that I've used with so many of the folks that I've worked with. I know Rhonda Temple is on the call today, and his organization loves this concept, and they live and breathe by it. The fact is, a fully functioning human being, a whole human being, the whole tree, root and fruit, and top of the tree, bottom of the tree. Let's talk about the top of the tree, the part that you see, the part above the ground. That's the mind and body. And we give those 3 cylinders each. Honestly, if a person wants to do a great job for you, they need to know what they're doing. They need to have the mind, they need to have the resume, they need to have the experience, they need to have the mind to do the job. They also need to have the physical ability to do whatever job they have. They have to have the situation in life where they can physically be present at their job. So there are mind and body considerations. Here's the challenge, folks. People stop there. They think if I've got somebody that's got the intelligence to do the job and they've got the physicality to do the job, I've got a great candidate. And they get hired on that basis. But that's not where people get fired. That's not where people go south typically. It's in the other part. It's in the root. It's in the part that really is a little harder to change. It's in the part that's really the essence or the DNA of the person. It's that part of the person that is reflected in core values. It is the heart and the spirit. The heart is that inner person, that integrity, that hidden man of the heart that makes that person who they are. And that spirit is the attitude of that person or the energy of that person. Attitude, energy, and integrity. Things that you don't really see on the surface, but that root produces a fruit. How do you hire? And how do you coach? And how do you encourage people? And how do you bring people along using heart and spirit as well as mind and body? Well, mind and body, you can use an organizational chart and job descriptions to hold people accountable. Great systems provide a mechanism and a map for the mind and the body. But the map for the heart and the spirit are the core values. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the root that produces the fruit. And so here comes the fruit. That's what we're producing. That's our services. That's how we help people. That's what we sell to people. But what drives that and what produces that and what really defines the nature of that and the quality of that is the root, the heart, and the spirit. So here's the question. If you've been tracking with me this morning, hopefully you've been really inspired and you see the value of core values and you don't have those defined or clarified, or you think it's time for a revisiting of those. I hope that's all going on in your mind. But once you have them, once you have that list on the wall, once you've defined what they are, how do you communicate them? How do you really get them as a part of the organization? That's how we're going to kind of start to wind this thing up today. How do we effectively communicate and use core values? Well, repetition is absolutely essential. You know, most people don't get anything inside of them where they retain it until they've heard it at least 7 to 9 times. I've heard that statistic. I don't know how accurate it is, but repeat, 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 repeat. You can't say it enough. And you need to think of creative ways to have this Goldie Otto, Goldie Otto, Goldie. We almost need to have this to be our little song, our little rhyme, our little thing that sticks in our mind. These are our core values. That's why I'm a fan of having less instead of more. I would want every person in the organization to memorize these. I would want them to know what they are and have a passion and a reason why they are our core values. Over and over and over. Repetition is the mother of learning. And if I want to get something deep within my soul and my heart, I need to hear it many, many times. Second, I need to see it. Again, I love Blake and the way he wrote these things on the wall and he posted them and made them visible. I know other people have handed out little business cards or laminated cards for the people to carry around and see. If we can see them, again, that's going through that eye gate. It's getting put within our hearts and within our minds. And we need to create simple rituals. Again, back to Infusion Solutions, that ritual of gathering once a week and telling that story. Maybe you have a quarterly meeting with your team and you set goals. Maybe you have an annual meeting where you gather to celebrate around the end of the year. How are you incorporating your core values? I think every time you hire people, if you involve your whole team in that, that's a great time to celebrate your core values and your DNA and who you are. But it's those rituals are those regular things that you do on a repeated basis where you think about and celebrate those values. Create stories. In fact, maybe you could start even a journal of core value stories on how people through the years have demonstrated those core values. Maybe some founders or people of the past in your company, some of the old stories that we tell about what they did and how they showed their service or how they showed their integrity or how they showed their kindness or whatever your values are. If you're a leader and you have an opportunity to speak with your group, work very, very long and hard and really focused on really creating inspirational speeches and illustrations of core values and enroll your other people to do the same. Use them we've mentioned this already in recruitment and in interviewing and in hiring. I love to be in part of interview processes with people where we ask the candidates, we give them these words or these values, and we ask them to tell us their view of these values and why they might be important to them, because we're looking for people that have the heart and the spirit that we have. When I went into that dentist office, every person in that office had that heart and spirit of happiness. They were happy and smiling and glad to be there and glad to serve with a smile on their face. And it really, you could feel it. You could feel it in the atmosphere. We talk about morale. We talk about attitude. We talk about that whole feeling in a business. Where does it come from? It's when people share the same values. Use it in your evaluation of employees. Gino, again, in his traction, talk about the people analyzer. And you look at those values and you rate people on a regular basis as a plus. I demonstrate this value most of the time. A plus minus, I demonstrate this value some of the time. And a minus, I have not been demonstrating this value very often. And the person doing the evaluation, this isn't to beat people up, this is to bring them awareness. One of our core values is kindness, George. This last week or two, you haven't been very kind, it seems. And I'm going to give you some examples. And I'm not picking on you, but you know, that's not acceptable. These are non-negotiable things. How can I help you? Well, Dave, I've had some problems at home. My wife has been sick and I've been very distracted and I get short-tempered and irritated. Wow, we need to help you, George, because when you're not being the person that we need to be, then we're not doing the things we need to do to have what we want to have. And we come together as a team, not to beat people up when they're struggling with these values, but to support them in sustaining them. In your training, how are you incorporating these values every time you meet? And in the development of your employees and the coaching of your employees, how often as a coach and a leader are you talking about these value pieces? We get so caught up, folks, in the day-to-day operation of the business and all the things that need to be done. And I know you need to work to get things done, but how often do we slow down and talk about that heart and spirit component, that deeper root issue that drives everything? That's what's so important. And recognize and celebrate around these values. Catch people doing these values and stop and acknowledge that, because what you feed grows. You know, that's what's important. And you make these things visible when you have them showing up all the time, they're top of mind for people, then they're going to start to act this way, because, you know, thinking is what drives action. And as a leader, it's our responsibility to put into the mind of people the thinking that drives our organization. Who do we need to be to do what we need to do to have what we need to have? And this one probably is the toughest one. If I have a person on my team that does not consistently display our core values, that needs to change or they need to go. And there's a lot of wisdom in how you do that. There's a lot of reasons why that can come up. But the fact is, if you allow people to be in your organization that do not follow and demonstrate and act your values, it's the wrong person on the bus, as Jim Collins would say. We need to get the right people on the bus and then get them in the right seats. The right person on the bus is determined by the core values that they hold to and what they follow. So I want to take a moment with you here now at this point, and I want you to get a piece of paper out if you're doing the paper and the pen thing, and just jot down a couple of things that you've learned, and more importantly, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to take full advantage of this idea of core values in your organization? I'm going to give you a couple of things that I can help you with to get things done, and here goes with that. I'm going to give you three offers. These slides, these are good slides this time. I always have good slides. These are really good slides. All that information that was up on the screen, I can send that to you, no cost. I'll email that to you. Second offer, I've got 4 values. I've got, excuse me, 4 articles to send you free of charge. One is them as Encore values. It talks a lot about what we talked about today. It's a reminder. I've got a great article on carrots, sticks, and team building. How carrot and stick really just changes behavior. We need to really go deeper to change hearts and spirits. That process for setting core values, I've taken that out of Gino's book and summarized it. Be glad to send that to you. And also an article on how to convert employees, people that are there just for a paycheck, into people that really get the organization and function as a team. And core values is one of the keys. So that's why I included that article. So you just email me and I'll send you those articles. No strings attached. I just want to help you. This is why I live. This is my core value, to assist people in these matters. And finally, a third offer. If you'd like to spend an hour with me on Zoom for $99, we can do that. And I will help you in your specific situation, help you put together a plan and how to maybe get this going in your organization. So that's what we have for today. It's a 45-minute. I've never had anybody complain about leaving early. So that is what we have for today. Please take advantage of the offers, and we will see you next time. Thank you.